I like car chases, but I really like tractor chases. That's my love.
This has been episode 29 of the Gridiron Podcast. Nick loves car chases, especially at slow speeds. I'm Sean Barie, and for Nick Shook and Katie Caldwell.
Except for OJ.
Damn it, you always interrupt me.
That one was worth it.
Speaking of getting the party started.
For the victory lap, though. They ain't never seen nothing like this before. Lit the room when I came through the front door. Ask me if I stress overcome, what for? Train on the trees, please walk my sycamore. Touch burning sands, cross lands, and stormy shore seasons in the year, yeah. Switch gears, with keeping haters in the rear. After blood, sweat, and tears, and my goal so near. I see my victory so clear. I see my victory so clear. It's a day, we break through. 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 It's a day, we break through.
It's time for episode 29 of everyone's favorite podcast covering Formula One and the NFL, the Gridiron Podcast. It's just your favorite Formula One and football podcast that you don't know about yet, but you will soon. Hi, everybody. I'm Sean Barie, and if you're joining us on Twitch, Twitter, or YouTube, up in the right-hand corner, that's Katie Caldwell up in Canada, and then up in the left-hand corner, we got NFL.com writer Nick Shook. Guys, how you doing?
From Cleveland. Come on.
Thanks, Katie. I appreciate
Shout out
you.
Cleveland. Why not?
Thanks for looking out. Really,
I shouted out your entire country, Katie.
You brought
I
Canada into this.
Specifically say Kimberly, British Columbia.
Oh, that's nice too, though. Thanks.
And I'm just over here in some city along some Great Lake, not to be named. That's Sean's wearing a Pittsburgh shirt. We know where his agenda lies. Let's be honest.
I am brand new Color Rush uniform, or not Color Rush, City Connect, the Pittsburgh Pirates, who won on opening day today.
Oh, congrats!
Yeah,
68 wins this year. Woohoo!
Hey man, don't count the Buccos out.
Actually,
don't count the Buccos out yet.
This is not a baseball podcast, but in playing MLB The Show 24 against them, I've been like, oh, they got some fun guys. They got Henry Davis, the catcher. They got O'Neal Cruz. They got some fun guys. McCutcheon's back in town. It's cool. It's cool.
Say it right.
Who?
He's back in town.
Back in town. He's downtown.
He's downtown. Guys, we've been off for the last couple of weeks because Katie's been traveling. We've been dealing with other various issues where our schedules just haven't worked out. So it's good to see you guys again. First off, welcome back. We're now to episode 29. We missed a couple of races in Formula One, so we're going to start off in Formula One. We were in Australia this last week. Australia, mate. And man, what a race we had. What a race we had for the first time in 2 years. Nick, what happened? What happened there?
Max Verstappen did not cross the finish line at all. Not only did he not cross it in first, he didn't cross it at all. He mechanically DNF'd for the first time in over a year. And even though I'm a Red Bull fan and I'm a Max fan, I was watching that race at the bar about 1 a.m. a little bit after midnight, after watching multiple hours of NCAA tournament action, maybe 4, 5, 6 pitchers of beer deep with my neighbor. And suddenly I'm shouting, making a fool of myself in public because my favorite driver has DNF'd, not because I was upset, but because I was excited, because the intrigue was just ramped through the roof. Suddenly this race mattered. It could be fun. It was actually exciting right before he even DNF'd when Carlos Sainz overtook him. That initially I was like, oh, we're going to have a battle out front. Oh, and then smoke comes out of his car and he's out.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody's race now. Ultimately, it was Carlos Sainz's race, but fun. It was definitely fun.
See, folks, this is just proof that the power of prayer does work. It might not always be answered. Might be answered once every 2 years, but the power of prayer does, in fact, work. If, in fact, you are praying for Max Verstappen's downfall. Yeah, Nick, so I did want to ask you, because you and I were texting during that race, and I saw that you were at the bar. At one point, you just dropped off the face of the earth. What picture was that? Because at one point, we were texting, and then at one point, you were just gone.
So I went with my neighbor, good friend of mine, I can see his house from my living room. Bought his house shortly after mine, and we always tag along to do things like this pretty regularly.
Yes.
And So I was explaining F1 to him, and then the race, started to space out as most races do. And at that point, he looked up at the clock and said, dude, we've been here for like 6 hours. It's almost 1 a.m. We got to go home. And I was like, you're right. Now, it wasn't a matter of, intoxication. It was a matter of I got home. The race was largely decided. I laid down on my couch to watch the last 8 or 9 laps and promptly fell asleep and woke up there at 9:30 in the morning the next day. So that's what happened. I really did fall off the face of the earth. I didn't even make it to bed, but it was a very good sleep and a fun race to watch.
It is a comfy couch. I will grant you that. I've fallen asleep on that couch as well. It's a comfy couch. Katie, your thoughts on the race? Because you were in California, you had like the prime time slot of this race. Nick and I had to start watching this race at midnight on the East Coast.
Sports,
you were out there just Cali dreaming, and what, you got to see a race at you blew it
because I had plans that exact. So it was a Saturday night at 9:00 in LA, and I had plans starting at 9:00 in LA. So I'm sitting there where I was at this really good comedy show. And I'm sitting there and I'm kind of looking at my phone like, it's about lights out right now. And I was so distracted. I'm like, I'm sorry for my voice, by the way. I picked up something in Los Angeles.
She caught that Venice flu.
It took me everything to
I'm sorry I sound like this, but I was very distracted at the show because I just really wanted to be watching this race. And then when I was watching it the next day in a McDonald's parking lot, because that's the only place I could find Wi-Fi, I was like, you know what? This would have been pretty sick to watch live.
Slumming it in LA.
I've been down bad, but I don't know if I've been down. I need McDonald's Wi-Fi to watch an F1 race bad before.
You just got to do what you got to do. Sean, we do an F1 podcast. I'm not going to not watch the race.
I admire the dedication. We were thinking about you during this race because Nick and I had to text outside of the group chat because we didn't want to spoil it for you, but it took everything in my power to not. Yes, we were. Apologies. It took everything in my power not to just text their group chat like, oh my God, I can't believe Sebastian Vettel came out of retirement, or oh my God, I can't believe that Fernando Alonso just retired mid-race, like just to screw with you.
That would have been such a Sean dad joke thing to do, and I would have opened it and been like,
I'm glad my reputation precedes itself.
One of my favorite things, and one of the reasons I'm really glad that I forced Katie to become a co-host of the show before we rebranded, is the budding rivalry that exists between Sean and Katie, both on the show and in the group chat. I'm one to poke fun from time to time, but Sean and Katie go after each other relentlessly, and I just get to sit back and watch the fireworks and enjoy it all from a comfy seat on the sideline where I can jump in the conflict when I want to, but ultimately it kind of bears itself out in moments like these where Sean has to rip Katie for going to a McDonald's Wi-Fi, and Katie fires right back that she is a dedicated member of the podcast, unlike some people, supposedly people who will not be named. And that's not a shot at anybody.
I had to send a meme to the group saying, Sean, when you're being mean to me, this is who you're being mean to. And it was a cute little puppy.
It was a cute little puppy. It's like, it's okay. My love language is insults. It's a compliment to everyone.
I got to give a mention here to shout out to one of our most loyal listeners, good friend. Logan says squad is so back. And you are so right. We are so back. Thank you for watching as always and listening, Logan. We appreciate your support. You can always find us on your favorite podcasting platforms. That's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon's platform, which I still haven't learned, SoundCloud. You can watch us on YouTube. You can watch us live right now and on replay on Twitch. And of course on Twitter, where this live streams as well. We're everywhere you want to find us. Just go type in grid iron and brackets, and you'll find us right there. And you'll listen to Katie's Katie as she struggles through, her cough right now or whatever the sickness that she got.
Best. I'm sorry.
You are. You're doing great.
She's trying really hard, Nick. She's trying really hard. Speaking of trying really hard, Carlos Sainz tried really, really hard to race minus an appendix, and it kind of worked. As you said, Nick, he took home the checkered flag in Australia. His third career win, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, his third career win.
Yep.
We had to wait, 17 races last year until Singapore to finally get someone else besides a Red Bull driver to win a race. It's week 3 or race 3, and we already have a new car winning. It's the same team that won besides Red Bull last year in Ferrari, but just the parity that we're getting now. Mercedes had a crap weekend with both cars DNFing. McLaren had a great weekend with Lando and Oscar coming home P3, P4. Haas got double points. This was an amazing race, aside from Max not finishing.
Actually, I think it's an amazing race because Max didn't finish. But honestly, and I want to get your opinions on this too, Katie. I am of the belief, based on what we saw right before Max's car took a shit, I think that would have been a good battle at the front for most of that race if Ferrari hadn't messed up strategy, which they didn't. But if, we can always leave that out there as a possibility, knowing them. I think that the Ferrari is fast, and Carlos is driving his ass off right now. So you can't tell me that, lap 35, that he's not right there with Max if Max is still in the race. I know Max is a great driver and he has the best car, but I think Ferrari's closing the gap a little bit.
That's why I think it would have been really interesting to see if Max did finish that race. Happy he didn't, because it was nice from the very beginning of like, oh, this isn't just going to be Max winning by, and then guess how many seconds. But I had texted you guys in qualifying. I don't remember which race it was, if it was Saudi Arabia or Australia, but I said, somebody needs to talk me down about Ferrari because they look really, really good right now. And I worry that tomorrow during the race, they're going to screw it up somehow, whether it's strategy or have some sort of bad luck happen. But they look so much closer to Red Bull than I thought heading into the season, in preseason testing, even the first race. I'm so excited about them. And now Lewis is going to be there and Carlos doesn't have a seat. Like, I'd love to get your guys' thoughts.
Well, no, so I wanted
of where Carlos is going to be.
I wanted to ask you, Katie, because right now on paper, it looks like the person who's sitting prettiest isn't Carlos, it's Lewis. He made the right decision when he left McLaren back in the early 2010s to go to Mercedes. 6 world championship titles later, here he is ready to go to Ferrari next year. Is he about to do the same thing and get that 8th, maybe 9th world title? Because that Ferrari is getting dangerously close to Red Bull. Another year, and they might be there.
Oh, that's a fun thing to consider.
It's a good thought exercise. The only thing that throws a wrench in it is the regulation change. That I'm assuming that the cars will largely stay on these same tracks, but the regulation change in 2026 can kind of throw everything off the rails. Like, we don't know what any of that's going to look like. But it is a really interesting point, because the directions that they're trending, I would way rather be with Ferrari right now. I love what Fred Vasseur has done with that team. They all seem like they're having so much fun, and the team is working so well together. And Mercedes, they just can't get anything going. They're the opposite. They're so much worse than I thought coming out of preseason testing so far.
Yeah, I think we're seeing both sides of the last dance coin here. Anybody remembers the Netflix series covering the Chicago Bulls in their last championship one with Michael Jordan in the 97-98 season? Kind of like that with Ferrari here, except we're seeing the good and the bad, because the bad is Mercedes. The bad is this is our last run with Lewis Hamilton, and the car sucks. And now we totally see why he wants to leave, because even the car that's better than it was the last 2 years still isn't very good. We're still not competitive. We understand why he's leaving. On the flip side, you have Carlos, who's going to be out of a job in a year, who's driving like there's no tomorrow, because there is no tomorrow, at least with Ferrari taking full advantage of the car that they've given him, to the point that he wins a race without his appendix. The guy gets out of the car and takes a picture, lifts his shirt up, and shows that he's still got bandages on where he had his appendix removed. And as somebody who's had his appendix removed, but not as seriously as Katie had her appendix removed, it looks like it looked like it was arthroscopically done based on where the bandages were. Now, it's been 2-3 weeks, right? 2 weeks after I had mine, I was back on the baseball field. I wasn't driving a Formula One car. The intensity, physical intensity that is required of somebody driving a car, the G-forces that you're pulling in that car, it's still kind of crazy to me that he's driving that car. And not only just driving, but driving competitively so much that he might have won that race even if Max hadn't DNF. That is remarkable. Like, I don't know if people are paying enough attention to the fact that is freaking remarkable.
I don't want to downplay it, but they mentioned it so many times on the race. And it is, miraculous that he skipped a race. He was in the hospital, comes back. And we all saw that video of him. He was at the last race in Jeddah, and he was like limping. Like, he probably should not have been out of bed, but he was at the race. Who
discharged him from the hospital?
I know, exactly. Like, it's like, you probably shouldn't be there, man. You can go back to bed. It's okay. But they kept mentioning how he had his appendix removed, and they were acting kind of like you were, Nick, but even more so that what a heroic thing this was. Like, I get it. It's a storyline. I'm a reporter. I would follow that storyline as well. But at the same time, let's calm down. The guy wasn't like, stabbed in a mugging. He wasn't shot. Like
Brad Robinson.
A rather routine surgery that people tend to get throughout this life. I get it. It's probably very difficult. It's probably very uncomfortable.
No. Here's
But it's
the rivalry.
not like,
here it comes.
It's not like he broke his right arm, had it in the cast, and was still, winning the race. Like,
let it rip.
Let's calm down let's just calm down a little bit.
Let it rip, Katie. Let it rip.
Well, as Nick mentioned, I'm also like the F1 season has again and again and again have had a major change in my life when I got my appendix out. That was actually when they found out I had cancer. So very weird before and after of my appendix story too. But it is a major abdominal surgery. It is laparoscopic and they go in 3 places and you could see his 3 bandages. And driving would be your entire core. And your entire core it feels like it's just been ripped to bits and it feels like it's on fire. Like it's a major surgery, but especially right there, I almost feel like a limb would be easier to manage and like kind of throw it out of the way. Like look at Lance Stroll driving with 2 broken wrists. He managed with that. I think the appendix is one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. Like I remember I couldn't fully stand up straight for like 3 weeks because there's so much pain and pressure through your entire core. The fact that he did that and that start that he got and the resilience of the whole race, like I will never forget that for my whole life. I think we simply can't talk about it enough because that was a last dance story to me. And tied in with the storyline of Carlos is the story right now where he's driving out of his mind and he doesn't have a seat next year and Mercedes is open. What if Red Bull might be open?
Yeah.
Like there are so many different possibilities that as a whole, it would be insane not to let this fully be the story.
Let's look at it this way. And I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not saying it's not part of the story because it is. I just think they were really pumping that up. They were really, really, really pumping it up. That being said, that Red Bull seat might be open next year, Katie. You're right.
Yeah.
Sergio looks like
if Carlos is available.
Sergio looks like he's on his way out.
I saw a Photoshop. It wasn't even a Photoshop. It was the photo of Max and Carlos back in like their Red Bull Junior days, and they both had Red Bull stuff on. And I was like, "Oh my god, this is the future. The past is the future. Time is a flat circle. Let's run it back."
I think that's exactly what's going to happen because the last time Red Bull had an open seat when Alex Albon left or was forced out, I should say, it was obvious where Red Bull should go. It was Sergio Perez. It was the guy that won a race coming from 20th in a tracing point. It was obvious who they needed to go sign. Right now, it's very obvious who Red Bull needs to go sign because looking at their junior drivers, looking at their stable, you have Yuki Tsunoda. He's fine. He's okay.
He's beating the
but
crap
honestly,
out of Daniel Ricciardo.
I don't think he can.
Amazing right now.
Yeah.
I don't think Yuki could ever get to that level where he could be a really viable number 2 for Max. Then you have Daniel Ricciardo. That's all I have to say about Daniel Ricciardo. Then you've got Liam Lawson, who's probably going to replace Daniel Ricciardo at some point in the near future. He's not going to be ready next year to be in that Red Bull senior team. You need a proven driver. You need Carlos Sainz.
Well, and people keep talking about Checo like it's automatic that he's going to be there. But remember this point last season when we were talking about, is this a true title race between Max and Checo? Because he seems to drive really well in the first half of the season. And then it varies sharply a few years in a row, not quite as drastic as last season, but it drops off. And if anything like that is happening again, even this race, what did he finish? P5, P6?
P5.
You're in a Red Bull. Why aren't you automatically in first place if Max DNFs?
P5 and 21 seconds behind Oscar Piastri.
Yeah.
In a McLaren.
Yeah. Like he's not getting the performance of the car. And there's the argument that like, oh, the car is built for Max and that's great and whatever, everything else. But that's not enough of an excuse to me. Like you can't stop me from imagining Carlos in that Red Bull and driving the crap out of it. And they're getting front row lockouts in quali and they're finishing 1-2 and they're being a dominant team. Like, and then at the same time, if Lewis is in an improved Ferrari and they're already pretty close right now, and Charles can ever actually figure out how to finish a race effectively or live up to his potential, because let's face it, guys, we haven't even talked about this, but I think Charles is overrated in my opinion. I think he's one of those guys that people expect a lot from and he's never going to deliver. But even if he is near the top of his game and Lewis is still the driver that we know Lewis is in that Ferrari, then suddenly you get Carlos and Red Bull and you got a hell of a title battle. And then McLaren might have something to say. And suddenly there's a reason to watch F1 beyond row 2. Like you can watch row 1 because there might be some intrigue there for the first time in years. we're setting up for a really fun 2025 season before we go into the uncertainty of 2026 if all this stuff plays out this way.
Here's what I want to say about Carlos Sainz, though. He's getting better.
Yes.
Year by year. He is almost 30 years old. He is in the latter part of his career now, okay? He has been in this sport for a very long time. But he's getting better. He is improving. And that is amazing to see, to the point where now maybe he doesn't take that Red Bull seat. Or I don't know, maybe he does. But, like, we need to start considering, you call George a future world champion. You call Charles a future world champion. You call Lando a future world champion. Or Oscar. We need to start putting Carlos in that same category if we haven't already, because I think, he has been at their level. He is at their level. That you can't deny that. But he's still improving.
This race felt different to me. Like, Singapore last year was really impressive and it was really exciting, but his communication just seemed so dialed in with them, and he's like confirming and reiterating his own strategy because he feels that he's zoned in and he knows he has this opportunity in front of him. This was the best drive I've ever seen of him. I thought it was so impressive, and I think you're right, Sean. He's getting better.
We have some contributors from the chat right now. My buddy Saman, who hates this certain driver, decided to jump in when the moment was right and said, George Russell sucks. He hates George. Hates him. Doesn't like his personality.
You know what? He certainly sucks when Carlos is winning a race. Last two races Carlos has won. George, last few laps, just bottles it somehow.
This one was horrifying. Did you guys hear the team radio with that?
So the team radio, for those that didn't see, the team radio afterwards. What was last lap, right?
Last lap.
Penultimate lap. George is going for a pass on Fernando Alonso, and Fernando, you can kind of see, impedes him a little bit.
He brake checked him.
It was a bit of a risky move there, and he got a 20-second penalty for it.
Yeah, it could have been more than that.
So George has to overcorrect because he would have crashed into the back of Fernando on the last lap. Goes into the gravel, hits the wall. It wasn't a bad wreck until his car comes back onto the track and his front suspension gets caught underneath his car, and the car flips onto its side in the middle of a track, in the middle of a turn. Almost a blind
around a blind corner. Like,
I did hear
the
team radio
accident. Like, there are multiple. I think Jules was kind of like that, and they didn't red flag it right away. And I was screaming right away, red flag, red flag.
So was George.
So was George. It was haunting. I'll never forget him on the radio. It was so scary. It reminded me a bit of, I think it was Carlos, was it Spa last season, where it was raining really bad and he crashed the car and then it was just sticking like right in the race line. And I remember just feeling so much anxiety of like a potential impact coming up. Like the George, it wasn't a scary crash, but where it was laying was
where the
really
car was
dangerous.
laying was extremely dangerous, and most of the field still needed to get through on the final lap. They put out a virtual safety car, but they really should have red flagged it. You're not wrong. Being the last lap, I don't know what they could have done. But yeah, it definitely should have been red flagged, or they should have been told, stay to the left, because cars were still trying to go to the right. Cars were still trying to go to the left and avoid the debris in his car. But it was very scary.
So out of the safety concern, you red flag it. But if it's the last lap, I can also understand why they don't red flag, because it's like, stop the race for one lap. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean,
it just wouldn't restart. If that was the case, it would have just been that as the result of the race.
But it's called a motor race.
But red flag just sends
Katie rolled her eyes.
more. Yes, you saw that. Red flag is such a more serious, like, something really big happened. No gray area. Don't try and get away with penalties for, like, just something happened. Watch out. Like, that's something the drivers need to know right away when the car is laying up like that on a blind corner.
Right.
Because you've seen drivers that still speed under the double yellow. And
it's one of those things where all the cars, whether it was red flagged or not, all the cars were still going to have to go through there anyway, just to get back to the pits anyway. Like, cars aren't going to stop on track like they do in NASCAR. You still have to get through there anyway. So I see why they did. I see why they should have. It's, in the end, he's okay. And teams did a very good job of communicating to their drivers, hey, watch out. George is on his side at this corner, stay to the left. You heard, I think it was Kevin Magnussen's crew chief saying, stay to the left, stay to the left, stay to the left, don't go to the right. So in the end, he's okay. How about McLaren, guys? Good day for McLaren. P3, P4. You feel bad for Oscar, the hometown kid. He was ahead of Lando because he got the undercut, but Lando was lapping him faster. And they gave him team orders, which nobody at Albert Park in Melbourne appreciated that. There were some jeers, and there was some silence when Lando overtook Oscar on track. So I get that, but at the same time, this is miles ahead of where McLaren were last year, and they're still making improvement from where they were race 1 this time around.
Yeah, and even if you put Max in there and say Max wins or finishes second or whatever, it's still P4, P5. Like, it's still a hell of a weekend regardless of what happened at the front. And they were very close to the front. They get one of their drivers on the podium. This is the McLaren that we expected from race 1, and we got it in race 3, which is super exciting and gives us yet another reason to continue to watch and track this entire season beyond who wins the race. Because if they can keep closing the gap, it's like Zach Brown said in the offseason, we're finally up to speed, pun unintended, with all of our technical abilities, our wind tunnel and everything else. It's shocking that they weren't up to speed prior. And it's also refreshing that they are, because then you see the results in the track like you did last weekend. And it's, like I'm a Red Bull fan. I know you're a McLaren fan, Sean, but like at the same time, I sit there and root for McLaren, because if they get in the mix, it just makes it that much more interesting. And those two drivers, how could you not love them? Like everybody liked Carlando back in the day. I don't know, man. I don't have a nickname for Lando and Oscar right now, but they're quite a fun little pairing to watch, and they're both really good. And I think they're both just scratching the surface of their potential. And if the car follows through with that on their side, on the technical side, we could see a couple of stars in the making that we're going to be watching for a long time.
Another couple of laps too, and Lando probably would have caught Charles in P2, gotten that second step in the podium. But it just goes to show, you're right, Nick, just how close everything behind Red Bull is. Like, the gaps are smaller this year, which should be a lot of fun.
Saman chimed back in, by the way, and said, "Let's go, Papaya Boys." I think Saman's a McLaren guy.
There we go, Saman. Let's go.
Land Oscar, by the way.
Oh, duh.
Land Oscar.
God. Thank you, Katie. Picking me up when I was down. Appreciate you.
I've had no rooting interest in McLaren forever, but they're fun to watch this season. And Sean, I'm just so happy for you as a McLaren fan. But
thank you.
We
still need a race win, but
it's coming. There was a sprint win? We all know
there was a sprint win.
We
last
all
year,
love a sprint race. But
by the way, did you guys see the video where someone in Australia after the race was taking a video of Lando walking behind the paddock?
Yes.
And he goes, "Lando, when are you going to get your first win?" And Lando just flips him off in a funny way. But I love that Lando also is like, this is what you want, I'll give it to you. Like, he didn't seriously mean it to the fan, or maybe he did a little bit, but it was still fun to see.
The vibes are just really high around that team. I'm having fun watching them. And I just love Zach Brown so much.
It's really nice what can happen to a team, and this is no slight on Daniel Ricciardo, but it's really nice what can happen to a team vibes-wise when you get rid of Daniel Ricciardo and you go to two young guys and just let them drive, and you give them a good car.
It's a hot take.
I'm just saying.
No.
That was not a fun team to watch when Daniel was at that team last year.
Lando did get a win with McLaren, but after that, around that, he did nothing. We could talk about Daniel, but I feel like we're going to have opportunities to do that throughout the next couple of weeks, as long as he is still in that car. But what I really want to talk about, and I know Katie wants to talk about this, it was the story out of Albert Park last week, besides Carlos winning.
And Sean, before you even get to the end of that setup there, we have somebody in the comments, familiar face, longtime viewer, hasn't been around on the Twitch stream in a while. He's joining on Twitter right now. He brought this name out that you're going to talk about. He said, Logan Sargeant, the only name I know. Sean, what happened?
Big B, I'm glad you brought this up. So I don't even know how to describe this very well, but Williams came to Australia with no spare parts, essentially. They didn't have a spare chassis. So when Alex Albon absolutely destroys his car, and was it FP3? It was FP3?
No, FP2.
It was FP2. Yeah. Okay, so when Alex Albon crashes and destroys his car in FP2, they realize that they're not going to be able to finish. Williams realizes that they're not going to be able to fix Alex's chassis before qualifying. So what do? they yank their second driver, Florida boy, Logan Sargeant, out of his car and put Alex Albon in his chassis. How? How do you do that? How do you punish the driver that did not crash his car, for once?
Anti-American bias.
And put the driver that crashed his car in there? And I understand it because Alex Albon is clearly the better driver. He clearly has a better chance to produce points for Williams, who must scratch and claw for every single point this season that they can get. In the end, they didn't get a point. And you punished a driver who you said you're trying to develop when he made no mistakes. I feel bad for Logan Sargeant. I feel bad for American F1 fans. And I feel bad for Alex Albon to a certain extent because he's starting to get like a lot of hate for this, even though he did nothing. He just followed team orders.
Katie.
Well, Sean, you asked your question and then you answered it yourself. You said, how could this happen? And then you gave the answer. I have a question for you. What has Logan done where they look at him and go, okay, yeah, let's keep him in the car?
Didn't crash John Wall or in practice.
Consistently ahead of him. But it's about the team. They're not worried about their feelings. He is the younger, more inexperienced driver. He's not nearly as good. If this is a Lando Oscar situation, I have all the time in the world for this conversation. He is so much better. And I get that you're frustrated that they didn't get a point out of it, but the Williams isn't good. If they were a better car, then yes, of course you're going to expect those points. He got close. What was he, P11? Like, Logan, I'm sorry, he isn't getting there, and he's not getting close to there. Like, he's one of the guys that when you watch qualifying, you usually have 5, 6, 7 kind of guys that feel automatic. He's one of them, and Alex isn't.
Nick?
Rebuttal? I mean, I totally agree with what she's saying. I have no notes. Like, that was a perfect response because I totally agree. Look, first off, complete mismanagement and gross negligence on the part of Williams. They can claim money issues, but they have money now. It was a lack of preparation, maybe a lack of fabrication time on the parts, but my God, hit the road with the parts, guys. Like, this is why you carried 6 front wings. This is why you bring all the extra tires and everything else. Crashes happen, especially on this track, which has strangely become increasingly slicker and slicker over the last 2 years. I don't know why. Maybe it's because the regulation changes, but cars are having a tougher time staying on the track in the last couple of years than they did before. So, prepare. Bring the parts. If somebody's going to crash your crappy car, have another chassis ready. Like, be prepared. You are a Formula One team. They just denied Andretti's bid, who has tons of money and will come prepared if they ever get in. And yet you can't come prepared. And it's not a money thing anymore. You have money now. It's a lack of preparation. It's poor oversight. But they are at fault. But they are not at fault for when put in this situation to make the decision that they did because of what Katie just said. Alex Albon, I was tooting his horn all year last year because he was driving the crap out of that crappy car to much better finishes than he should have been. And he did again in a car that wasn't his. He still did with P11. Look, if I look at the final standings of that race, George Russell finishes 17th, right? By wiping out on the last lap. He probably would have been 17th or 16th in that race if Logan was driving that car and not Alex. And instead they get up to P11. They flirt with points. He's the better driver. It's as simple as that. Sports can be a cutthroat business. We see this in the NFL all the
Especially
time.
F1.
And we're seeing it in F1. If we didn't know already, we know again. It's a bummer. And you can cry all you want about how he deserves to drive his own car, but it wasn't a decision that he could make. He could have made the decision with his performance in previous races, and he hasn't. And it sucks because he's the American driver, and he's Sean's Stars and Stripes mascot, baby. Let's go, America. But he sucks right now. He hasn't been good yet. Okay. I hate to say that, but he does. And as Simon said, Logan, he bins the car all the time.
Yes, he does.
And
lots of bunks in that car.
To be fair, I know I'm playing the why couldn't they let Logan race card? And I do feel that way to a certain extent, but I understand why they did it. I think, Nick, you said the quiet part out loud, though. Williams is crying poverty. Well, we can't afford to bring – yes, you can.
I think
you were bought out by a very wealthy American investment firm. Like, you have the money.
Yeah.
This, I think, is a problem with the Williams team as a whole. We were always talking about, they're just a team that used to have this great history, and they're down on their luck now because they just don't have the same kind of investment that these major factory teams do. Well, now they do. They still have a crap car, and they still do stuff like this. That's a problem within your corporate structure, and that's a problem within the mentality. That's just a core problem with your entire team. And now I don't think now that you cannot cry poverty, even though they are doing so, the cracks are starting to show. Like, they're getting a spotlight shown on them a little bit more, and they're still not delivering. That's going to be a problem, especially when who owns them? Doralton Capital. That's going to be a problem when they continue to do this year after year. They continue to be bottom dwellers. But anyway, we don't need to spend too much time on Williams because they're in last place.
It is a good point, though, that this is completely on Williams. Like, and I liked what you said earlier, Sean. Like, I do feel bad for Logan too, and I feel bad for Alex in this situation because neither of them deserve for any of us to be having this conversation.
Yeah.
But Williams gave us the space for that. Williams was the one that screwed up. Logan should have had his own car. They should have been prepared in that situation. So it sucks that so much of the focus is on Logan versus Alex, who should be in the car. Why not? When everybody should just be saying Williams. What the fuck?
I don't know. If you're Logan Sargeant, I don't know how you walk back into that factory and have a smile on your face. Like, that's really hard.
All you do is go, I understand, guys. It's out of your control. I get it.
Yeah, but inside, that's boiling. That's reached a boiling point.
But he also is very much on the edge of having a seat at all.
Exactly. We'll see in IndyCar next year, Logan. It's a great series. You should watch it. All right. The only thing I also wanted to talk about in F1, we can do it real fast. Haas, double points. A team we should pay attention to this year?
We love that.
No, but it would be fun if they stay competitive. They have two veteran drivers, and it was nice to see them get the most out of their car. It's not a good car, but it's nice to see two guys that have been around for a while get the most out of it and score points in a weird weekend. And it was weird, guys. Like, it was weird. Like, you had multiple DNFs. You had a car that didn't even make it to the grid. Lewis and Max DNF. Like, there were 17 cars left. Like, hooray! You finished 10th and 9th. All right. That's a combined 3 points. You're better off than you were last year.
That's their Super Bowl, Nick.
It's 3 more points than a couple of teams have.
It really is, though. It really is their Super Bowl.
Other than when, was it K-Mag that got pole in Brazil for the sprint?
Yes. He got pole in Brazil during that downpour, and then he started the year off 5th in 2022. A 5th place Haas finish in 2022.
It was a mutter. That Haas was a mutter. It did well in the rain.
Yeah. All right, guys. Anything else left on F1? Oh, by the way, yes. Wait, we have to update the fans on our fantasy league.
Yes. For those who are unaware, Katie came up with a fantastic idea of starting a fantasy league among us. And the way we did it, because there are 20 drivers and dividing those among 3, well, that's not an equal number. I'm not good at math, but even I know that. So what did we do? Well, Katie had the bright idea of eliminating Red Bull because their dominance last year which left us with 18 drivers left to pick from. So we did a little snake draft via text while I was in Indy at the combine and walking back from getting a late breakfast, going back to the stadium. And this is how we've gotten to this point so far, because we have some interesting teams in terms of construction. Katie, would you like to regale the viewers and listeners with the name of your team?
Oh, mine's Team All Hot. Everyone on my team is hot. There's not much else to it. I just accidentally drafted a hot team.
I think it was intentional, but
I don't yet. I accidentally, air quotes, heavy air quotes around that. On Katie's team, All Hot, we've got Lewis Hamilton, Carlos Sainz, Daniel Ricciardo, Alex Albon, Nico Gimbag, and Zhou Guan Yu. So clearly, Katie had a good week. Yeah, Katie had a great week this week with Carlos Sainz taking home the win.
No one else did anything. Lewis,
pretty much, yeah. I had a crap week too. On Team Sean, I don't have a fancy name for mine. I've got Charles, George, Fernando Alonso, Pierre Gasly, Valtteri Bottas, and Logan Sargeant. And then Nick has Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, Lance Stroll, Yuki Tsunoda, Esteban Ocon, and Kevin Magnussen. Decent week for Nick because he has the two McLaren boys. And Lance Stroll and Yuki and Kevin all scored points. So Nick had a great week. Here's how the standings go right now. Everything pretty even through 3 weeks, which we love to see. I have 59 points. Nick has 59 points. And Katie 57 points, according to the drivers' standings. There we go.
Those of you in the chat, those of you loyal listeners, feel free to choose your team. Pick your side. Express your allegiance in the chat or afterward via social media. Let us know who you're riding with. Is it me? Is it Sean? Is the Canadian Queen Katie, better known as Kate? The choice is yours, but we will update this
There
all
was
year.
also some pre-episode controversy. Due to
Oh, there was, but we're at
Ollie
40 minutes
Behrman
and we
on
don't have to
waivers.
get to that.
No, let's unpack that.
I picked up Behrman on waivers and I didn't tell anybody, and I thought that was fully acceptable, and he got points.
No, you did. I just don't remember.
Meanwhile, I
uncommon.
lost Logan Sargeant this week and didn't get to pick up Alex Albon.
Because there wasn't a car, Sean.
I don't
Are
care.
You cheering for Team Ghost Car?
He was in the car. He was in the car.
Sean,
Yes.
Ghost Car. Woo, Ghost Car. Let's go, Ghost Car.
Ghost
You got
car.
0 points either way. Doesn't matter. There's not an extra driver for you, my friend. So that's where the F1 Fantasy League stands as of right now.
All right, guys, let's switch gears. We usually do a segment this time of night called Do You Even Know? And Katie thought that we forgot about it and we abolished it for this week. But Nick and I actually came up with a couple questions to ask Katie.
Oh, I don't want to do
this is an ambush, Katie. I'm kidding.
Fire me into the sun right now.
No, I was
I'm
totally
kidding.
playing along, Katie. I was totally playing along.
Yeah. Nick, I was hoping you would pick up on those cues.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
we do not have a Do You Even Know this week. That will make its return at some point when we actually do a better job of planning this podcast.
You
So
just
we're
watched
switching gears now.
You watched 14 years of friendship at work right there, folks. Especially those of you watching online saw our facial expressions really play that off. We totally duped Katie. We got you.
We got her. We got her. All right, let's switch gears to the NFL, the other half of this podcast, the iron part of this podcast, Gridiron podcast. Eventful week in the NFL because the NFL owners meeting took place in Orlando, where a couple of rule changes took place, Nick. Mainly the kickoffs. Going to look completely different now. If you've watched the XFL over the past year or however many iterations of it there have been, it's going to look exactly like that. Also, hip drop tackles are no longer allowed. I didn't know there was even a name for those. So, Nick, being our resident NFL.com writer, go through these rule changes, please.
Allow me to open up my folder here and present my PowerPoint. So the kickoff is awesome. The NFL was trying to encourage the usefulness of kickoffs. Yardage gained on kick returns had dropped from 45,000 roughly in 2010 to 13,000 last year. That's massive
total
drop
throughout the league, all 32 teams.
People just weren't returning kicks anymore, and even if they were, they weren't gaining much. And part of that problem was kickoffs tend to be the most dangerous play in football because you have 11 guys running at full speed about 40 yards downfield and crashing into 10 guys. And then one guy tries to navigate the mass of humanity to pick up some extra yards before this offense come out in the field and start a drive. So they have made multiple changes. They incentivize touchbacks, moving it from the 20 to the 25. You can fair catch at any point in the field now and get a touchback instead of having to be in the end zone, which takes away the incentive to hang a kick on the goal line and force a guy to return it. They also moved up the line where the players started on kickoffs. They have basically neutered kickoffs in the name of player safety. So what they did was, all right, how can we actually encourage this to be a play that's worth watching again instead of just an exercise of change of possession? Well, let's go to the XFL, a great testing ground for many different rules, some that people hope that they adopt and they haven't yet, and others that, went by the wayside for various reasons. One being in the original version of the XFL, they had a camera guy on field in hockey gear standing behind the field of play.
Oh God, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Hey, if you ever wanted to know where the red challenge flag came from, the XFL.
And if you ever want to know where Skycam came from, also.
Or no, wait, sorry,
XFL.
that was the USFL. I'm sorry, that was the USFL, not the XFL.
But the Skycam came from the XFL and was adopted and is one of football fans' favorite viewing angles. In fact, they did full games in Skycam angle because it looked like Madden a few years back. So they took this from the XFL because what they did was they brought guys closer together. They decreased the amount of distance that they had to gain speed before crashing into each other to make it a safer play. They also implemented a rule where there's a catch area. It's between the goal line and I think the 20 or the 25. And the idea is you kick it in that area, the guy catches it, you return, the guys aren't getting hurt and getting crashed into and getting concussions as much because the distance between them is shorter, and you get some crazy plays. There was a crazy play in the second version of the XFL before the third version, which was last year's XFL, in which a player from the Battlehawks, they ran like a trick reverse type of return, and the guy swoops around from left to right and goes around the right end and returns it for a touchdown. It was electric, and I expect those types of plays to appear in the NFL this year. It is a 1-year testing period, I believe, but I think it's going to stick. And I think people are going to love it. So that's awesome.
What is to stop someone from just kicking it through the back of the end zone?
Oh, they can still do that.
Okay.
But this is with the hopes that, you you pin him down inside the 20 or something like that. Because remember that coverage team doesn't have to travel as far either. So say a guy slips a block and makes a tackle on the 15. Well, good thing we kicked him and gave him a chance to return. No coincidence, the fact that Sean's team immediately signed Cordero Patterson, the all-time kick return touchdown leader in NFL history, shortly after this rule was approved. Sean, enjoy Cordero Patterson in Pittsburgh for the next 2 years.
I texted you, Nick, and what did I say?
He said, great, another guy that Arthur Smith's going to find a way to force in there and screw everything up. Something along those lines.
I didn't say that. I did not say that. I said, God damn it, Arthur Smith. Or I said, God damn you, Arthur Smith.
Yeah.
Because
it's a lot more succinct.
a little bit. It was
I tend to over-explain.
Absolutely no context whatsoever, but I knew Nick knew what I was talking about. Great. Here's another guy that he's going to use to just try and gain, third
as a running back,
and use someone
was a productive
as a
running back
decoy.
under Arthur Smith in Atlanta for a couple of years before he got hurt.
That's fine, but Najee Harris and Jalen Warren exist, and I was worried that Cordero Patterson was going to be like just the guy that we would hand the ball off to way too many times. And that still might be the case, but Nick was quick to talk me off the ledge and go, this is for kickoffs. This is a good thing. Like, okay, thank you. I'm in favor of this kickoff.
Sean even said, by the way, Katie, you should make note of this in your running log of times Sean admitted he was wrong. He said, quote, I recant my statement, end quote.
I do. I when I know I'm wrong, I recant my statements.
Nick, thank you for flagging this for me.
I'm in favor of this kickoff rule just because I've seen the XFL at work. I've enjoyed that special teams kind of scenario because when you first see it, you think this looks stupid. This isn't football. And then you watch it at work. You watch how guys block. You're able to kind of, like you said, Nick, run plays out of these kickoff returns. I like this a lot more, and I think NFL fans will too.
Katie, what do you think?
I don't have a lot of thoughts. I'm excited to see it. Anything that they can do to obviously reduce concussions, but not just completely take it away. Not that I always feel the NFL always works in the best faith when it comes to the health of players, and we'll get into that, I'm sure, in the next conversation, but I'm excited to see it. I like taking things from the XFL. I like watching the XFL. I'm excited.
Yeah. I don't even think this is, not to disagree with you, Katie, and not to knock your employer, Nick. I don't think this is in the interest of player safety as much as it is in the interest of, okay, the kickoff has just become a formality at this point.
It's both.
Like,
it could be both.
This is in the interest of, this makes the game more fun to watch, which means more money. But hey, if players aren't going to get as many concussions, that's a win too.
Put a pin in that. We're going to address that in a second. Also, I'd like the record to show that Katie is a true sicko. She admitted she likes watching the XFL. Good for you, Katie. New UFL fan this year, Katie Caldwell.
Oh, I thought you guys knew that.
Oh, I know. I just want the rest of the world.
I'm a Battlehawks fan.
Yes, Caca is the law.
Yes.
Maybe we should do XFL talk. It is the Gridiron Pod.
I just, Katie, I did an interview with the Battlehawks coach because he's a local guy down here in Tampa, and he's like, when I was hired, I'm a Philly guy, so I know how to sell stuff, and we needed to sell the XFL. I'm like, you were right for the job, man. You were right for the job.
Coming up on the next episode of the Gridiron Podcast, all about the rise of the St. Louis Battlehawks and our UFL.
We'll get Anthony Becht on the next podcast.
Oh, former tight end. Okay, Sean, another rule that they had changed, the hip drop tackle. This is the controversial one.
Explain that one to us. So, Nick, just real quick. They banned hip drop tackles. So you, as a defender, you cannot hit high. You cannot hit low. You definitely cannot hit low. And now you can't hit in the middle of the...
You can't hit the quarterback low in an attempt to get to him. That's the Tom Brady rule. You can't land on a quarterback. That's the Aaron Rodgers rule. You can't go high on anybody. That's the whoever the hell you want to name it rule.
Vontae's
the
perfect.
Hip drop, sure. The hip drop tackle, though, is if you watch college football, Florida State quarterback Jordan Travis suffered a season-ending gruesome leg injury last year on a hip drop tackle.
I would not recommend watching that play.
Well, if you're into gross things like I am, watch it many times. Willis McGahee's knee injury, also worth watching. That one was crazy. His knee went out the back of his leg. It was crazy.
You disgusting.
I watched my own skin cancer
fan.
When I was 13, I watched my own skin cancer removal as they just cut every layer of skin out, and then lifted it up with like tongs or tweezers, whatever you might want to call it, and then cauterized my veins.
Okay. I'm sorry I asked.
Jesus Christ, Nick.
Anyway, hip drop tackles, Nick.
So basically, the hip drop tackle is when a defender, usually a smaller defender, is either getting dragged by a bigger guy or is looking for to gain some leverage, and he's got him around the hips with his arms, and he kind of jumps off the ground and tries to use his own body weight to pull the guy down. It all happens very quickly. Usually, in order to do that, you kind of swing your legs through, almost like you're riding like a swing, and you like pump your legs. Like I teach my niece, pump your legs. She's 7 now. She knows how to do that. But back in the day, when she was younger, you had to teach her how to do it. This is what they do when they tackle the hip drop tackle. They call it the swivel tackle because you kind of swivel your body, right? What happens is when you swivel your body, you end up on the lower extremities of the ball carrier, often at awkward angles that causes injuries. And in an attempt to keep people on the field and as healthy as possible, the NFL has outlawed it. The problem is it's going to be freaking impossible to enforce in real time. And the NFL even admitted that when the competition committee talked about this rule right before it was approved. They said most of these penalties are going to come in the form of fines in the next day, but we're trying to get it out of the game. This is where it starts. They have kind of removed the head out of the game. Guys do tackle differently. They've even kind of lessened the roughing the quarterback, save for some bogus calls where guys just shove quarterbacks. I watched guys training camp with the Browns in 2019 with a specific pad that's like a big wheel. It's designed for you to alligator roll off of guys so that when you wrap it, look, supreme athletes, big guys. Watching them do this drill was incredible just because when they tackle, you think your body weight is just going to carry you forward. You're going to land on it. They were able to tackle it while diving and twist their body and land on their own back with the guy on top of them. Football players will adapt. They will adapt to this too. It's just going to take some time. The other problem is that it's going to decide a game at some point. At some point, somebody's going to, if they try to flag it in real time, it's going to decide the outcome of a game, but that's inevitable.
Here's my question to you, Nick, because a couple of years ago, I want to say this was 6 years ago now, the roughing the passer call was changed to where the Aaron Rodgers rule that you talked about, you cannot land on top of a quarterback. That rule has kind of, I don't know if it's kind of worked its way out of football because you still do see guys landing with most of their body weight. And I believe the way the rule was written, it was you cannot land on a quarterback with most of your body weight. Well, a referee is going to make that call in real time. What is most of Myles Garrett's body weight, right? Like he's 290 pounds or 75 pounds. So at what point do we cut that off? Is it like at 200 pounds? Is that too much? It was a very arbitrary rule, and it seems like that has kind of worked its way out. You're right. Tacklers have now found ways around that. Is this going to be kind of the same thing? Because remember when they put that rule in place, it was getting flagged left and right because it was deemed that was too much body weight on top of Jameis Winston, so we're going to throw a flag. And I say that because I actually watched that in real time on Monday Night Football when the Steelers played the Buccaneers. That's neither here nor there. So are we going to see too many flags and people going to be annoyed at this? Or are, like you said, are we just going to see, oh, hey, we saw this, you get fined? Because either way, I think players are going to be pissed off.
So the NFL in that season that you described, the first half.
You remember what I'm talking about, though, right?
Yeah, they were very, very aggressive in policing it, and then they backed off a lot in the second half of the season. I expect something in reverse to maybe happen where they learned from that experience. And it's more of it was probably a hip drop. We'll find him the next day. I don't know if you're going to see a lot of real-time flags, but it's just because you can penalize it. I think it will happen at some point.
I'll be honest. I didn't know what a hip drop tackle was. And as I'm watching the video explaining it, it looks like a tackle to me. As someone that never played the game of football competitively like you did, it looks like a tackle. It looks like someone is running in the open field and someone has to bring them to the ground.
So imagine Katie trying to tackle me. How is she going to go about doing that? If Katie's got me around the waist and I'm just like chugging along, what's
Katie,
her first
do you have a baseball bat or maybe a firearm?
I was just about to say a weapon. That's how I would do it. That's the only way.
But you're Canadian.
Frying pan off the head.
Okay, so weapons aren't involved. She would try to hip drop me because that's just like instinctively that's what you do. So
I feel like Katie would just wrap herself around your leg and you'd just be dragging her along. You're trying to shake her off.
Yeah.
Sean, that's very visual.
You did a pretty good job of demonstrating.
Thank you.
A lot of body movement in that little Zoom ball.
Well, for our video viewers, I need to make it. Anyway, Nick, go ahead.
Would you like to stand up and really demonstrate? No, that's my answer. She would try to hip drop tackle me, and we're gonna see that. It's gonna take a while to get out of the game, but eventually it will get out of the game. And what the NFL tries to do with these things is they try to implement a rule and hope that it has a trickle down effect to lower levels of the league and of the game. I mean, so college football, high school, Pop Warner, that type of thing. And eventually it will, because history tells us that it does, based on what we've seen from less head-to-head contact. I mean, when I was playing, you blew up a guy up high and like the sideline jumped up and down screaming, and it was like a great hit. Your coach is like slapping you on the helmet like great hit. And now it's a flag and they're like, what are you doing? Why are you tackling like that? The same thing will happen. It's just going to take time. It's going to piss people off, and they're just going to have to accept it.
I do wonder how it's going to be called, like you said, especially in the beginning, because I think a lot of fans are going to hate it even before it decides a game. I think that's going to be the ultimate nightmare. But hockey fans know this. Like, what is goaltender interference? No one knows. But because this play is not reviewable or not able to be challenged, there is room for a lot of people getting really upset about it, especially at the beginning when everybody's trying to figure out, and it happens so quickly in real time. But have you guys seen the responses? Like, they've been pretty mixed from the players, especially, I find, are not pleased about this. And I do understand that. Like, I get doing anything.
You're asking someone to change how they do their job, right? And as someone that works in like corporate America, yeah, it sucks.
But especially from like the defensive side, because it's yet another thing to a huge list of things that the league has taken from them to stop an offensive play. And I think, yes, it's health of the player. Okay, NFL, bring that same energy for artificial turf then, if that's actually the case. Because they do also want the games to be more offensive, more high scoring. That's better for their product if they take these tools away from the defensive players, and the games are way more high scoring. I just don't trust them.
Tinfoil hat on.
There are so many amendments in the Constitution of the United States. I can only choose one, and I choose fifth. I'm not responding to that. All right, last rule change. This is one I said we should put a pin in. Christmas games on Wednesday.
It's beginning to look a lot like
Wednesday.
Okay. So the NBA has forever had a just monopoly on Christmas Day. They have had their Christmas Day games, unless, of course, the day happens to fall on a Sunday, in which case, or Saturday, in which case the NFL has a couple of games, But for a large part, Christmas Day has been the NBA. Now the NFL is just saying, you know what? We already own Sunday. We own Monday. We own Thursday. In the later parts of the season, we own Saturday. That's 4 days. We need a fifth. Let's do Wednesday anyway.
How many rings?
The thing that I don't like about this is they said the only teams that will play on Christmas Day on Wednesday are teams that played on Saturday. So it's the same as if you play on Sunday and then you play on Thursday. My question is, why are we doing that anyway? Like, I get it. It's money. It's TV. It's ratings. I get it. I know the answer. I get it.
I mean, the NFL.
Why are we now playing an NFL game on Wednesday? Why are we playing NFL games on Thursday? Why are we giving paid professionals that cannot hip drop tackle anymore and that run into each other at 30 miles an hour 3 days rest?
In the
because they care about player safety until it costs them money or affects their bottom line. But I'm surprised that it isn't 3 slots of games. Yeah, they will always follow the money. They always have.
My question
is 3 games.
How will they make us?
Last year, yeah.
How will they make us somehow watch the Lions or the Cowboys on Christmas Day?
Oh, you'll watch. You know why you'll watch? Because you either watch that or you watch 24 hours of A Christmas Story. Which, don't get me wrong, I love doing that. But
hold on now. Hold on. Them's fighting words. I got to see Ralphie shoot his eye out at least 2 to 3 times at Christmas.
Yeah. An icicle, it fell off the roof, it broke my glasses. Yeah, Sean. You're gonna watch.
Very good impression, actually.
Everybody, I'm all right at those sometimes. You're gonna watch. Everybody's gonna watch. The NFL straight up said in the announcement, they were like, the feedback we got was phenomenal. Everybody loved it. The ratings for last year were 3 of the top 5 ratings in the history of Christmas Day games. One of them was the Chiefs losing to the Raiders at Arrowhead. The other one was the Giants making it interesting against the Eagles, and then the Ravens dominating the 49ers in a massive game. And if they can get those types of games again on Christmas or anything close to that, they'll do bonkers numbers again. They'll make a ton of money off the ad revenue, and we'll keep doing this. The only downside to anybody on this planet is this. Now my Christmas is affected. You all watch it while you're drinking eggnog. I got to be sober and writing in the middle of the week. Reminds me of that COVID game we had in the middle of the week. What was it? Ravens Steelers back in the day. Remember that?
Yeah, you're welcome for that. Actually, that wasn't our fault. That was the Ravens. They kept getting COVID.
Yeah,
they kept getting COVID.
Again, I plead the fifth, Katie.
I'm just an ideas guy.
I just picture this as Roger Goodell getting up in front of a podium and saying, "Look, with the NFL, you're going to watch it."
And they will
drop the mic and just drop the mic and walk off.
30
what are you going to do?
Spend
time with your family? Come on.
Yeah, you will. You'll watch the game with them while Uncle Jack's passed out on the sofa.
I will say this might make Christmas more tolerable for many families because now you don't have to listen to your uncle talk about January 6th. You can just listen to him talk about how Lamar Jackson is a wide receiver.
Except for those who like the father-in-laws with the son-in-law who doesn't like sports, and the father-in-law is a diehard sports fan. He's like, hey, what do you think about the Buccaneers? Baker Mayfield, you like him? And he's like, I'm more into art. Yeah, that football. Woo. That'll be an awkward situation for them.
But at least it's on, and it's a distraction that you can watch. And even if you don't know anything about football, it's on.
This is for the video viewers, real quick. The Gridiron Podcast, it's on.
It's on.
I forget what year this was. It might have been like 2004, 2005. I got a PSP, if you remember those.
Hell yeah, I had one.
That was a great gaming system.
Great.
Got a PSP.
Ahead of its time.
It was. They should bring that back. And I got MLB and Madden for the PSP.
Yep.
And I was sitting down there playing as the Pittsburgh Steelers in my grandma's basement, playing Madden on this PSP. And I'm like, man, be great to watch a football game right now. Little did, what would that have been? 12-year-old Sean Barie know that, in the year of our Lord, 2024, we would have football on Christmas.
I love that for you.
You know what's crazy is I noticed this last year. I didn't give two shits about the NBA last Christmas. And I always love watching NBA games on Christmas, which again proves the NFL is king and will suffocate every other sporting league, even if it is their designated holiday. Take
every
it back,
other
Steve.
league
The shield's
bend
here.
the knee.
Protect it, admire it, worship it. It is the shield.
All right. Last thing we got in the NFL, guys. Hits a little close to home.
Oh.
Ooh.
The Kenny Pickett era in Pittsburgh is over.
Oh, who can
the Kenny
say
Pickett
where the
era
road goes?
In Pittsburgh is over. Thank God I didn't buy that jersey. But I'm trying to keep it together going through this. So the Steelers trade Kenny Pickett to the Eagles. They get a third-round pick. They swap fourth-round picks, and I think the Eagles got like a 6th and then a 7th later on. Kenny Pickett's no longer a Steeler. He's with the Eagles. It's his hometown team. Good for him. The Steelers signed Russell Wilson. The writing was kind of on the wall. I don't feel like as a Steelers fan they did Kenny Pickett dirty because at the end of the season they said Kenny Pickett is our quarterback, but there will be competition. We will bring in someone to compete with him for that starting quarterback spot. This is how it played out in my mind. Kenny Pickett said, all right, cool. I'm going to have to compete against Mason Rudolph. I've done it before. I'll do it again. And then when it wasn't Mason Rudolph, when it was literally anybody else but Mason Rudolph, Kenny Pickett said, never mind. I'm not saying he ran away from a fight, but I think when you hire someone, when you sign someone like Russell Wilson, you're not signing someone like Russell Wilson to compete for a backup spot. I'm not saying that they were doing that unfairly to Kenny Pickett or not. And I completely agree with the Steelers for trading him and for Kenny for wanting to be traded.
There's two sides to this equation, Sean. He absolutely did. He did run away. Solve for X. I don't know what Y is. He absolutely did run away from a fight.
Okay, good. This is what I wanted. I thought you were going to agree with me. Go.
No, he totally did. They signed Russell Wilson to be the starter, and Kenny's like, I'm out. Like, oh, I'm not the guy anymore. I'm out. Which is in his right as a player. Totally get that. But then he went to a team where he's got no chance of starting in Philadelphia. Like,
here's my
it's
thing,
almost
though.
like a big FU.
They signed Russell Wilson, who is a name, for $1.2 million. They were paying Kenny $1.8. I'm not saying that it was Kenny's job to lose, because it was honestly at that point his job to win.
He's doing
but $1.2 million is not a lot of faith. What?
It's not 1.2. It's only 1.2 because the Broncos are paying the rest of his money.
Exactly.
Yeah, but like don't compare salaries as like a sign of like prestige.
No, Nick. But the Steelers are paying him how much?
1.2. I know.
Exactly. Is that a lot of faith? Is that a lot of faith, though?
That doesn't matter. Anybody could have signed him for 1.2.
No, it absolutely matters. It absolutely matters.
No, it's actually a bargaining chip because, hey, we'll pay you 1.2 because we know you're already getting paid tons by Denver. Is that cool?
But Nick,
and you'll start.
But Nick, if he sucks, if Russell Wilson starts to suck, put Kenny back in. I don't care if you're Russell Wilson. Take a seat because you suck.
And this is why
we're only in $1.2 million. It doesn't matter if he's doing well or doing poorly. We're only in this. We're only investing $1.2 million. That's why Kenny still had a chance.
Yeah, you're looking at it from a Kenny apologist standpoint, and I understand that. What it is
that what you want to call it?
It's one way.
No. No, I'm actually not looking at it from a Kenny apologist standpoint. So the Steelers are only invested for the veteran minimum at 1.2. If you're Kenny Pickett and you think, okay, can I beat Russell Wilson? Probably not. But can Russell Wilson stay relevant long enough to outlast me? Or can I prove that I'm worth something to this team? More than $1.2 million.
Which is why he ran away from the fight. Because he didn't even give the time to let it play out, because, and this is a bit of a spoiled child syndrome here with Kenny, and the fact that, oh, I'm suddenly not the guy. Well, you know what? I'm going to take my ball and go home. Trade me. I don't want to be here anymore. Dude, you could have, we saw Russell Wilson got benched for Jarrett Stidham last year. Okay. Like Jarrett Stidham and Kenny Pickett are kind of in the same boat, and Pickett's got a relatively higher ceiling. But Kenny didn't want to stick around for that because he didn't want to be the backup to Russell Wilson. Now, I can't blame him for not wanting to share a locker room with Russell Wilson. That's a different topic. But when it comes to this situation, he ran away from a fight. And this is exactly why, as soon as they traded him, two things came to mind. And I texted you one of them. One was Tomlin is not about the people who don't want to be there. They got rid of Deontay Washington. George Pickens is going to be on a short leash, even though he's super talented because he's been a bit of a knucklehead. And Kenny Pickett says, I went out. They said, sure, we'll get rid of you. We're going to send you to a team that you have no chance of playing on. Good luck. Have fun, Kenny. And the other side of it is this. As soon as that happened, I think I texted you this. Justin Fields will be a Steeler in 72 hours or so. And
I texted you that.
Took 20. I'll look at the texts.
Go to the tape.
I might have texted Austin that, actually. Might not.
Sorry,
I recant my statement, Nick. No, here's the thing, though. As a Steelers fan, I knew they were going to make moves this offseason. I didn't know it would be quite this many. And I think that makes me cautiously optimistic. The whole soundbite from Tomlin, what was that, 2 years ago? It was Marvin Ingram when he wanted traded, and they traded him to Kansas City. He won a ring. Tomlin said, we want volunteers, not hostages. They really took that to heart this offseason. Deontay Johnson gone. And absolutely nobody in Pittsburgh is mad that our number one wide receiver is gone. Absolutely nobody. And I think they all share your sentiment, Nick, that, hey, George Pickens, you're on a short leash. Because guess what happens to receivers when they leave Pittsburgh? Things don't always go well. The only one that comes to mind that actually did well post Pittsburgh is Juju Smith-Schuster. And it's not that he's done well. It's that he was on a team that won a ring. Okay, his career hasn't done well.
I thought you were going to go Plaxico Burress on that, which that didn't end well, but it did go
It didn't end well. It did not end well. It went well, but that was a long time ago. Antonio Brown, he also won a ring, but again, you look at him now. You can look at Mike Wallace. You can look at Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster. You can look at a bunch of guys that left, and just nothing happened afterwards. And everyone says, "Oh, the Steelers, they find such good wide receivers in like the third or fourth round." Yeah, and then nothing happens after they leave.
Folks, I found the text. Friday, March 15th, roughly 2:52 p.m. Eastern. Sean, I said, Sean, the Steelers traded Pickett, laughing my ass off. He goes, what? In all caps. I said to the Eagles, damn, I really wanted to pan out. Unfortunately, I don't think it was ever going to happen. And then I said, just wait. This will all precede a trade for Justin Fields. And then you said, I was thinking the same thing. So I was. I will tell you, I was indisposed when I was tweeting you this. All right. Well, that wraps up Steelers Minute. Justin Fields is the real gem in this entire thing, by the way. If Russ sucks,
you've been high on Justin Fields, Nick, the entire time we've recorded this podcast for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Can I ask you why? Can I please ask you why?
Well, number one, the Ohio State tape. Number two,
okay, that's what I was worried about. That's what I was worried was going to be your first answer.
I mean, it's indisputable. He was fantastic at all.
Should we go sign Kyle McCord next?
Kyle McCord was not fantastic, but Justin Fields was elite. He was extremely special at Ohio State. But I think more than anything, he needs to be out of the spotlight. He needs to take the pressure off of him and be able to just kind of grow within a system that's going to support him. The Bears situation sucked for him for 95%, 75 to 80% of his time there. And it didn't start to get all right until he was already headed out. I mean, if he didn't get hurt last year, he could still be the Bears quarterback right now because he was on a bit of a heater before he hurt his thumb wrist situation against the Vikings. And I believe in his potential because I think he's got a great arm. He needs to clean up his footwork and he needs an offensive line that's going to protect him. He needs receivers that are going to get open. But most quarterbacks need that. And he needs to not be asked to lift a team out of mediocrity into something better. Pittsburgh won't do that to him. If he comes in for Russell Wilson because he's hurt or because he's not playing well, all right, let's see what we got. There's no risk. He's got one. There's no risk on either of these guys. And I think between the two, you're not going to hitch your card to Russell Wilson long term. You hitch it to Justin Fields. You get him on the cheap if you want to re-sign him. It's a great move. And everyone's talking about you can only get a sixth for Justin Fields. It's a conditional sixth that could go to a fourth. And that fourth might come into play if he ends up playing a certain amount of snaps, which I think we're going to see him next year in black and gold. But it's interesting to see what number he wears because Steelers don't give out number one. And that's all Justin Fields has worn since his days at Ohio State. So keep an eye on that.
Nick, do you know what number I want to see him wear?
Don't say 7.
Nope. No, Jesus Christ. No one will ever wear 7 again for Steelers.
Don't say 16, Charlie Batch.
Nope.
10, Cordell Stewart. Slash. Let's go.
Because when they signed Justin Fields, and even before they signed Justin Fields, I thought, if they do this, because this was before Russell Wilson, I thought we were either getting Russell Wilson or we were getting Justin Fields. I didn't think we'd get them both. Really didn't think we'd get them both. Even Omar Khan, the Steelers GM, went on record and said, yeah, I didn't think we'd get both, but we did.
The rapper Jim Jones came out with a big hit in like 2006, 2007. It was called We Fly High, (Ballin'). Ballin' is what Omar Khan did this offseason.
Omar Khan is that's a GM I get behind. I like what he's been doing through the draft and through free agency.
This Ballin'. Yeah.
Before they even signed Russell Wilson, I thought, if we get Justin Fields, if the Steelers get Justin Fields, I've always said if Cordell Stewart was in today's NFL, he would be right there with Lamar Jackson. He was ahead of his time. He was that guy. He could have done it. He just played in a different era. Justin Fields could be that guy for the Steelers. That's being optimistic, but man, that would be fun to see. So maybe he wears number 10.
Perhaps he does. That would be fun. All right, let's get to the final segment of the day, Sean.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm dragging. I'm supposed to be hosting too.
We're teaming this up. You're still hosting. What is this segment known as, Katie?
Hate it or love it.
There you go. Good job.
Okay, great.
There you go. Katie, you can go first since you said it. What's your hate?
Segments for 200.
Segments for 200. What's a hate? I'm not really prepared for this right now. I just hate being sick. I got sick after Vegas, and then I got sick at the end of LA. Traveling home sick is just the worst. I just have a shit immune system, so sometimes things like this happens and it like beats my ass for a long time. So I am not doing well, but
maybe some extra vitamins.
Doing our best.
Some vitamin B, some vitamin D.
I think C is the one.
Just keep naming vitamins, Sean.
C,
B12,
magnesium,
turmeric.
I will take your advice. That's my hate. It's nothing exciting. I feel like trash right now. I wouldn't be doing this for any other people.
It only works for you. Oh, it didn't work for you either. All right, Sean, what's your hate?
My hate would be house hunting.
Your house hunting right now.
Yes, yeah. So as you can see, we're at my brother's place. We have been for the last couple of months, and my girlfriend and I, Erin, are looking for a house to rent here in Tampa or in St. Pete. We're not picky. We're either side of the bridge. We have looked at 5 homes over the last 2 days. My only question to those listings, is this a fucking joke? I mean, is this a joke to you? Do I amuse you? Am I a clown? Like funny, like haha funny? No, guys, seriously. So we went to tour a property over in like the north part of St. Pete, just across the bridge from Tampa. That place is that part of Pinellas County is called Pinellas Park. Pinellas Park isn't the best of areas, but there's certain pockets of it that are fine. This one house was in a pocket that was absolutely fine. It was across the street from like an industrial park. So like the only neighbors we had were like, you know, I think there was a waste management storage unit there for like the trucks, not the actual like dump. Like, and then there was like a boat storage unit. So like it was a quiet neighborhood. The house was nice. The neighborhood was nice. The owner had texted us and said, "Hey, I'll meet you there. Are you available in the next 2 to 3 hours?" We said, "Yeah, we'll see you at 6:15. We were there at 6:15. He was not there. I kind of like looked in the front window. It looked very nice. I would like to see the property. He did message us back today and said, "Sorry, that time didn't work for me."
Thanks for communication, pal.
Clearly. So that one was okay. We drove to another house, and all of these, they're self-tours, so you can like walk in yourself. You let yourself in. That house was like the nicest house we've toured. The next house was the nicest house we've toured. But it just happened to be in the worst neighborhood I think I've ever been in. Just the worst. The houses, literally 2 houses around that house were crumbling.
Oh.
Part of the walls were like falling down. So we walked in, we walked out. We said, absolutely not. We drove to another house. It was the worst flip I've ever seen. They wanted to make it an open concept. So they knocked down every wall, but you still had 3 pillars in the living room.
Amazing.
Then we walked outside. It was supposed to be a fenced-in backyard, which we want for our dog, Lando. And someone had knocked down the fence, which was not on the listing. Also, there was a live chicken in the backyard.
Oh, hell yeah. Farm animals, baby. That always raises the value of the rent.
This is giving Florida man so hard right now, and
yeah, Sean, you know,
amazing.
You're in Florida, but if I didn't know any better, I think you were looking in Ravenna.
Hold on. I'm not done yet. Today, we've been looking at this one house and been trying to get this company to contact us. It's close to both of our offices, and we finally found a way to tour it. So I went to tour it today. It's the biggest house we've seen, 4-bed, 2-bath, 2,000 square feet. It looks great in the listing. I walk in. Front room is great. Kitchen is great. Living room is great. And I walk into the bedrooms. I don't know what the stains on the carpet that I saw were, but I know that I don't want to find out. Also, there weren't 1 or 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 cockroaches that I saw. One was alive and above my head, so I got out of there quickly.
Are you sure they weren't palmetto bugs?
They were palmetto bugs, but Nick, do you know the difference? They look the same.
That's just a callback.
Exactly. I don't care. So house hunting, I'm sorry, long way round. House hunting has been terrible. But hey, we're still making a go at it. Nick, what's your hate?
Just when I was going to say 4 bedrooms, that's enough to host me and Katie. We both come visit you, Katie gets 1 room, I get 1 room, you and Aaron got 1, you got an office.
Ain't going to be that house.
All right, well, keep searching. My hate is manufacturer warranties. The stove, okay. Background. Bought a newly built house, which means
Katie, I hate being sick. Sean, I hate like house hunting. Nick, I hate maintenance.
Yes. I love being a homeowner. Don't get me wrong. I actually really enjoy it. I'm very much have entered my dad era without having kids, where like I have a full tools set up in the garage and I have things mounted on the walls. I mow the yard. I love it. I really enjoy doing that.
Your yard is...
It's a patch of grass, but it's still a yard nonetheless.
Okay, Judge Judy, Mr. Staying in your brother's living room right now, and you're gonna bring down his yard.
She's got my back. She's got my back. But
okay, That actually hurts. We didn't need to cut that deep, Katie.
That's another tally in Katie's ledger in the rivalry.
Nick, mute her.
She's been muting herself every time she erupts into coffee fits, like right now. You can't hear that, but if you're watching, you can see that.
Everyone look at Katie. She's coughing off camera.
Now she's in a bad coughing fit because I made her laugh. And now she's flipping us off. So bought a new house, new construction, right? So new appliances. Fortunate enough to be able to purchase it. Appliances are what you would call an affordable high-end series. The builder is not the easiest to work with because we're still under, our first year of homeowner warranty, as Sean scrolls his phone. And essentially, I've been trying to get the purchase order or the proof of purchase from this person at the company that built the houses for a while. He finally sent it to me today. They bought these on March 2nd of last year. I've been in contact with the manufacturer for a couple of weeks, waiting on this proof of purchase. I sent it to him, and he tells me, "Oh, you're out of warranty by like 4 days." 4 or 5 days, and I about unloaded on this guy in this email. And the problem is, it's a brand new stove, and the thing won't spark when you try to ignite it. It needs an igniter module replacement. I know how to do it. I just need the damn part, and I don't want to pay for it, and it should be under warranty. So I'm gonna climb all the way into this. I don't even know where I'm going with that because I don't want to say something that I'll regret later. But you know what I'm saying? I'm pissed, and I want my part for free. I don't want to pay for it. I don't want your technician to come out and look at it and then charge me for the technician visit. I already made that mistake once with my washer and dryer that I bought off of Craigslist when I realized I could have fixed it myself. So manufacturer warranties, 1 year. Screw you for not having a 5-day grace period. Best Buy, you buy things, you get 14 days to return it. Most everybody gives you miss your rent, 5-day grace period most places. You can't get one on this? Screw you. I'm not going to name the manufacturer, but screw you. Honor the warranty, damn it. Katie, what do you love?
That was a good one too. Good one. My love, I'm happy to be back with you guys. I missed the last pod, and then we took like 3 weeks off. And I was in California and unable to do anything reasonable. Pardon me. But yeah, took a midlife crisis on the road. But I missed you guys. I'm happy to be back.
We missed you too.
Guys too. Yeah.
I mean, Sean. But yeah.
Nick gets enough of me already. My love, guys, is it's opening day in baseball.
Yeah.
It's a national holiday that should be celebrated just like March Madness should be celebrated, which is also concurrently happening. But opening day is just special. I've only ever been to one opening day baseball game as a fan. But today I got to cover the Rays and Blue Jays. It feels different. Hope springs eternal when everybody is 0-0. There's all to play for, 162 games, and we'll see you in November. By the way, as we mentioned at the beginning of the pod, don't sleep on the Buccos, all right?
Sound like a mouthful.
No, should be great. Sound like a drunk Canadian with a mouthful of loose change.
Going downtown, going to Permanis.
He's going downtown. Best thing is so the Pirates opened up against the Marlins in Miami, and our intern over at Fox 13 is from Miami, and he's been talking about how the Marlins made all these moves and the Marlins are going to be good. And I walked back into the office today after covering opening day. I said, "Hey, by the way, here, I'm going to hand you this fat L."
He had a little Pittsburgh when he said fat L. Ooh.
Exactly. I said it like that.
Oh, okay.
I said it like that.
Good for you,
Sean. You're going to lose to the Buccos.
We'll see how they finish. Guardians won 8-0 over the A's. Hey,
nice. Hey, you know what? Your division's wide open. The Twins are really good, but the wild card spot is open, and I don't think the Twins are good enough to run away with the division. Katie, I'm assuming you're a Blue Jays fan?
Yes.
Okay. Only team to have 162 nationally televised games. Go figure.
Oh, I didn't know that. I guess it makes sense.
They're the only team in Canada, so I assume every game is nationally televised.
I don't think it. I guess it is with Sportsnet. I'm guessing. Sorry.
I'm assuming.
My cough.
The Blue Jays have a lot of the power they showed today. Oof.
That was fun.
If their pitching is there, I'm scared of the Blue Jays. I think the Orioles still take the East, but the Blue Jays and Yankees, I think they're going to be right there for that second spot. I don't think it's the Rays here. They're too banged up. And then the NL Central, I tell you what, yes, the Brewers are the favorites, but you also have the Reds, you have the Pirates, you have the Cubs, and you can't count out the Cardinals because it's freaking St. Louis. But this should be a fun year for all three of our teams.
And don't forget to watch Los Doyers, the Dodgers, and all the money.
No, we don't have to watch them.
Well, half of LA still can't because of their cable disputes, but that's neither here nor there. My love, also off the wall, I love slow speed car pursuits, like police pursuits. I saw a video today of a guy driving like a front end loader.
Love the randomness.
At a very low. I'm trying to like make some effort in this segment, Sean, because usually I just make it up on the fly. But I saw this earlier and I was like, hell yeah, a guy in a front end loader who's disgruntled with his former company steals the tractor and drives it away. I mean, what do you do if you're a cop in a cruiser? Like, you're not gonna bash into that thing. It's just gonna shake you off like it's Derrick Henry stiff arming a fourth grader. Like, what are you gonna do about that? You're not gonna do anything about that. So another guy from the company gets in another front end loader and drills the other one and flips him over, and that's how they stopped him and pulled him out of there and apprehended the individual. I don't know what his crimes were, but I'll tell you what, that was a fun little slow motion, and by slow motion I mean it was running at full speed, but those things don't travel very quickly. That was a fun video to watch this evening. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. It was in Gwinnett County, Georgia. I think that's a suburban area of Atlanta, and it was a fun little clip to watch. So I like car chases, but I really like tractor chases. That's my love.
This has been episode 29 of the Gridiron Podcast. Nick loves car chases, especially at slow speeds. I'm Sean Barie, and for Nick Shook and Katie Caldwell.
Except for OJ.
Damn it, you always interrupt me.
That one was worth it.
Actually, you're right, because it was needed. For Nick Shook and Katie Caldwell, I'm Sean Barie. As always, live life in the fast lane.